Hello everyone and welcome back to the English shooting live stream. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Of course, a load of, I think, very interesting topics. Certainly the new, well, I was going to say the new gun from Shield. It's a little different to what we expected in terms of the name. Originally it was going to be the Shield SP-01. Some of you may have remembered that. Got hold of one back in back a couple of years ago at the shooting show. So we're going to be looking at that. That's finally been released. Of course, Gun Trader development with the recent leak from Gun Trader and the way that the company is now going to be restructured. And we've got some interesting developments from Basque as well. But this is interactive. If you want to get involved, ask questions, there is a chat section, please use it. If you disagree with me and you want to say, go ahead, I'm used to it. But don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy the streams, if you enjoy what we do, because we do it every single week, usually without fail, unless I'm moving house, then I'm allowed a little bit of dispensation. And I will give you a warning. Yes, it's the good old internet once again. Rock solid last week, and literally just before starting the stream it's going up and down, so I apologize for any interruptions. I will be getting a hardwire up here as soon as possible. But yeah, how are we all doing? Oh yes, lots of people saying about I always use the phrase UK, and yes, I know the whole UK legal thing. Yes, Northern Ireland can own unrestricted handguns for sport and for other reasons, which we of course won't go into because I get my wrist slaps. But yeah, UK is easier. Yes, GB, but like it's not necessarily clickbait, but it's a lot easier to an international market when you're trying to get people to click on a video and very concisely portray what you're getting onto. Saying UK legal, like everyone gets it, like, you know, not to throw stones at the Americans, but GB, like I think the Americans in international market are going to understand UK better than GB. So yes, I'm guilty of doing it, but we all know what the deals are here with our laws. Just chill your beans. But yeah, the abomination. Yes, it's very hard to say that a long barrel pistol is good looking and an abomination, because we all know that there's, you know, statistically no reason that we shouldn't have normal handguns, and that the whole thing with the RØDE, the whole thing with the handgun ban has actually done absolutely nothing to reduce crime and do what it was intended. So I'm going to bring up there's very little information about this, so I'm going to be going back to the previous video that I did at the British shooting show, but this is the new Shield. Well, again, it's not actually called the Shield, it's the KMR S-01, the 2.2 long rifle, long barreled pistol. For those of you that don't know, it is a UK requirement. You cannot, under section 1, yes, there's caveats to it, you can have like black powder and stuff like that, or muzzle loading, but for a 2.2 semi-auto, the barrel needs to be 12 inches long, and the overall length of the gun needs to be 24 inches long. That's why we get the long barrel pistols. That's why we have these rods and long barrels stuck out, because it needs to conform to our length laws. So it's the KMR Precision Arms being sold by Shield sites. I'm going to try and like meet up with these guys and drop by their stand at the Target Shooting Show, which is something else we're going to be talking about later on in the show, and very relevant to this because this is where it's being launched. So I'm going to ask why the name change, because it was originally going to be branded fully Shield. It's a lot of marketing gumph at the moment, nothing really that valuable in all of this, but out of it, it is a truly compatible CZ, so you can use aftermarket components with it and upgrade it. Now, why is everyone obsessed with a long barrel pistol, Shadow? Because it's the go-to competition gun. If you can use a Glock. I personally use a Glock or a Walther PPQ. There's others. You don't have to go for a Shadow, but it is one of the most popular, and out of the box, it is one of the best full bore handguns for IPSC and practical shooting. And we've not yet had one available in the UK on the market. So it's going to have, or this is what it's going to come with: carry case, pretty standard. There's a deal that you can get the Shield SMS, 3 10-round magazines. I'd say that's pretty good. Most manufacturers will only give you the 1 magazine, and then you've got to go and buy more. 10 rounds, that is going to be, I think, limiting in the short term, but between you and me, there might be a company that will work on some extensions for you, so watch this space. A cleaning kit, yeah, completely different thing. A cleaning kit, KMR branded gun oil, recoil springs, enabling fine tuning to specific ammunition choice. So quite a comprehensive bit of kit, and I have to say, if you look at it at a glance, you would be hard pressed to say that that wasn't a CZ Shadow 1 or Shadow 2. It is very, very similar to the real deal, and my only experience of shooting one of these clones was actually with the Cotswold Classic Arms Antreg Zenith. It does feel weighty like a 9mm. It's initially it feels too heavy, but they shoot phenomenally well. I can understand why everyone goes for the Shadows. The shooting with them is just an absolute joy. This is where it's going to probably put a lot of people off. The price. It's going to start the basic package with no optics, so the standard, let's say a standard specification gun for standard division is £1,750. Yes, that does make it one of, if not the most expensive long barrel pistol on the market. There's things like the low mil Rangers. I think they were north of £2,000, but they were more of a custom gun. In terms of off the shelf, this is going to be the most expensive. You compare it to the likes of the PPQ. I think the PPQ you can pick up for like £700-800. So you're looking over double Walther PPQ, which is a very good competition LBP here in the UK. And you can, a little bit of a deal for an extra £100, you can get the SMS. So personally, I would just take that deal, even if you're not interested in shooting open division. It's a Shield optic for £100. Can't really go wrong with that, and I'm sure you will find some use for it later down the line. Yeah, £1,700 for a 2.2 clone. This is unfortunately the state of UK shooting, or the UK market, when it comes to guns, unfortunately. But it is a looker. I'm going to go back to talking of a looker. Who's that handsome chap? So we're here at the British Shooting Show. This is when we first got a glimpse of the KMR, and again and you can see it's all branded Shield, which is, I understand why they were going to do that. I don't know why they've now gone to the KMR branding. It is KMR that is actually making it for them, so that is the sort of true manufacturer, but it's being made to Shield's specifications. So we got a hold of one about 2 years ago, and the amount of messages and emails I get about these CZs or these CZ clones is incredible. So it is coming, and it's going to be launched at the Target Shooting Show. That's another thing that I'll show on the launch page. So yeah, again, there's not a lot more I can say about it other than it's a CZ Shadow clone, and it's going to be available at the Target Shooting Show. One I haven't got behind that one, but one I have got behind is the Antreg Zenith. Slightly different in its design, but you can see all of the controls, all of again, the gun, it just looks like a Shadow. So and again, this was probably one of the fastest long barrel pistols on the plate rack. And yeah, no, you don't want to see that. You want to see more of the gun, don't you? But yeah, at the bottom here, so the first batch of guns will be available for collection from Shield sites at the Target Shooting Show on November the 20th to 21st at Stoneleigh Park. So I reckon these are going to be a very hot seller. If you're even remotely interested in getting one, I would highly recommend you get in contact with them, you get your name down on a list, and you pick one up from the Target Shooting Show. I know 1800 quid is a lot of money to come up with for a new gun, and I even saw on the post that I put out for the stream, someone was going, great, I've just bought a GSG. So if you've already got your PPQ, your GSG, or your Walther Colt 1911, to go and drop nearly £2,000 on another gun, I can understand that's not necessarily impulse purchase territory. I can see these being very hard to get very quickly. The reason it's taken 2 years, I know that Otto at Cotswold Classic Arms is desperately trying to release his. It's not from a lack of interest. He's had more than enough interest from it. The amount of people that I've sort of pushed his way, getting in contact with me and then passing emails addresses is absolutely ridiculous. It's about getting time slot with the factory. Again, because these are a very specific market and in terms of handgun, a very small market, the factories don't want to spend their time making these guns. They want to be making 9mm. They want to be making the guns that they can sell to the European market, to the US market, or international market. So it's very hard to convince them to suddenly down tooling and then make something, run. I think Otto was looking at bringing in, I think it was anywhere between 20 and 50 guns from the first batch. Sounds like a lot, it's really not. And I know Oceana Defense had exactly the same problem with the Walther PPQ, because they were like, I think he bought in, it was either 100 or 200 in the first batch. And again, that was still a very small amount for the company, or for Walther to make. So you've got to convince them, you've got to show that it's going to be a longer term thing as well, and you can sort of play on the heartstrings and say, help us poor buggers out, because we don't exactly have a huge selection of guns and long barrel pistols or pistols in general that we can go and train with. So yeah, I can see what's going to happen is they're going to be I would be surprised if they don't sell out after the show. And I know that seems ridiculous to say, but I was sort of going through my head of the people that are, that I know are going to get one 100%. And I was already up to 15, 20 people. They are going to fly off the shelf, and then it's another wait. Then they've got to wait for another batch to come into the country. That could be another 6 months, another year. So yeah, that's it's exciting. I mean, yeah, we can get upset about the price. It is what it is. Talking to these people and talking to Otto about price, you think that we're getting ripped off. You think that we're getting shafted, that these guns are costing 400 quid, and they're making 1,500 quid on them. They're really not. The margins in these things are infinitesimal, because you've got to obviously pay the factory to make them. You're getting them made in very small batches comparative to the international market, so the price per unit goes up. Then you've got to ship them over, you've got to import them, you've got to pay import tax, you've got to pay for the import license, you've then got to go and have them proofed at 50 quid a gun. You've then got to market the thing and get it out to people, and I would be surprised if Shield are making any more than say 300 quid on one of these guns. And oh, that's right, you've got to have the dealer margin as well. I don't know if they're going to go the dealer route. I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't enough margin in it to sell out to dealers. So I don't think we're getting shafted. We're only being shafted by our laws. It's not the companies doing it. Very slim margins, and I think the new guns that are hitting the shelves at the moment, the Benelli M2 and Nova Speeds, I think I saw the margins in those, and it was like £150. You know, oh well, that was for the Nova Speed. So it's, you know, it's a £1,300 gun. The dealers are making 150 quid per. It's like absolutely, you know, nothing. That's why they will plead with you to buy 1,000 carts of ammunition, which they don't make any margin on, and maybe a few accessories that they might make some margin on. So it's the laws that shaft us, it's not the companies. For a competition pistol, you know, I've seen people, you know, look at the M2 Speed. That's a £1,600 gun, and people are climbing over each other to get their hands on one. So in the competition realm, you pay your money, you get what you pay for, and that's why in the full ball realm, you can go and spend £3,000, £4,000, £5,000 on a gun. Look at Bull Armory, or the likes of the STIs or the staccatos or whatever they're called now. Yeah, like thousands and thousands of pounds that you can go and spend on a 9mm. So again, I don't think overall it's not bad, even though it does put it up the top of the market. Love the way the promo photo even cuts out the barrel and the coat hanger. Absolutely, they should make it in 2.2 Magnum. Like, I get that, like, and you know, that's why we've had this fascination with the 2.2 WMRs in the AR-15s, people trying to get that extra punch, and really maximize what semi-autos we can have here in the UK. Unfortunately, it's not a comp spec. You can't shoot it in any IPSC discipline. It would have to be like an outlaw match that you'd have to do it in. Yes, long barrel pistol technically is an IPSC, but we can still have level 3 matches here in the UK, but we can't do it with 2.2 WMR. It's why I see the appeal of it, and I see many uses for it, but for me, the WMR AR-15s have almost been very gimmicky. To me, they're fun guns that you can't go and compete with them. Yes, you can go vermin control and vermin shooting with them, but they're fun guns. It's to have a punchier semi-auto, but you can't go and actually do anything constructive with one. Yes, it would be cool if somebody made a 2.2 WMR long barrel pistol, but again, it would just be a fun gun. Nothing wrong with that, but it's nice to have a purpose for the gun. Nice to be able to compete against other people and have a purpose for going out there and shooting to train and sort of better yourself. But of course, absolutely nothing wrong with going out there and plinking. That's for sure. Nitsa, well, that's expensive. My Glock 9mm was £795, which is actually still quite expensive for a Glock, because they're like what, like $500-600 out in the States. You thought the CIP-22 was expensive. Again, a gun that I think they only made 10 of in the first batch. A lot of development costs for 10 guns. That's why they were expensive like that. So I just need to wet my whistle. Makes me sleep sounder at night to know that you can only get pistols in long boy configurations here. Yeah, I know, because like the criminal would never just chop off the rod and cut down the barrel, would they? You know, it's like the logic of it is just dumbfounding. If somebody, like, the sort of crime you're going to go and commit with a firearm is going to be significantly more serious than the crime of cutting it down. So it's like, I think I've said in the extreme example, you know, oh, I was going to go and rob a bank. I was perfectly happy to go and do that crime. But no, you know, turning a Section 1 gun into a Section 5, I couldn't possibly do that. That's just too heinous of a crime for me to commit. It seemed to be doing something, and we all know the police. You know, the police were never the police and Home Office even were never complicit in the creation of the long barrel pistol. It was the godfather himself, Alan Westlake, who was like, "You bastards, I really miss my pistols," went through the law to a T and was like, I can see something here that I can create. You know, the police and the Home Office do not want long barrel pistols. We all know that it is at some point going to be very high up on the agenda to confiscate and take away and ban. But it's very hard for them to do it because there is no legal definition of a long barrel pistol. How do you legally define one and ban one without banning rifles? Which is probably what they're going to end up doing, is clubbing everything together and just like banning all semi-autos. But yeah, we've got to make the most of what we've got for the time being. English Shooting, do you know the legality of 3D printing a top venting blank fire FGC9, and also would it be legal to make it fully auto? That's a very specific question. The thing is, blank firers aren't restricted. I don't think there are any like laws or prohibitions around blank firers. Only, oh no, because there is an issue with people converting them. So it's, to be honest, I don't know. You can legally own a venting blank firer. What I don't know if whether you would need to be an RFD to manufacture it. But in terms of 3D printing, like everyone, like I've had this recently. I've had this issue recently where people have like lost their minds over the thought of 3D printing a gun. Of course, I said we at some point, and yes, I haven't forgotten, we will 3D print a gun legally, and I will document the process of 3D printing that legal gun. 3D printing is just another manufacturing process. There's nothing special legally about using that process to make a firearm. As long as the firearm, or even a blank firer, as long as that gun conforms to the legal requirements, and as long as the manufacturing process adheres to the requirements, you know, of law. So, you know, to manufacture a Section 1 or Section 2 or Section 5, you need to be an RFD or a Section 5 dealer. I don't know where blank firers come into that. I don't know if you require being an RFD. But yes, legally, in RFD aside and all that, legally, yes, you can 3D print a blank firer as long as it conforms to whatever specifications are there in law, and as long as you have the correct authority, if any is required, to manufacture it. But this whole thing about 3D printing, it's just another manufacturing process. It's not, you know, how could it be illegal to 3D print a gun but not to CNC it? It's like, but yeah, I get I think what you're talking about is more of a hobbyist level. Could I, you know, in your bedroom at home, print a blank firer without any licensing? I don't know. And I certainly wouldn't want to, on that specific case, certainly wouldn't want to give out the wrong advice and say, yeah, go for your life, and find out that actually you need to be an RFD. So, but something that I would look into, in terms of a full auto blank firer, as long as again it is a blank firer, full auto is not a problem. There's like there are no restrictions or mechanisms for blank firers as long as it conforms to required standards, if there are required standards. And it gets very confusing because we've had all these obsolete calibers, and obviously there's DACs and then blank firers. With DACs, deactivated guns, there are very stringent, very stringent requirements to the standard at which it needs to be deactivated, and it needs to be sent to the proof house. The proof house actually needs to test and inspect that it meets those standards, and it can't be easily, you know, reconverted. I don't know if the same. I honestly don't know if it's the same for blank firers. There might be somebody. If somebody does, someone's watching this and you do know, please feel free to Put it in the chat section and educate us all. English Shooting's #1 fan has joined. Hi, Mum. Thanks for joining. Live stream much better when you do it on your own. Thank you. I'll tell Connors that tomorrow. I'm sure it will give him great pleasure to know. Is it just my charming personality? How far do you think we are from an all-out ban on firearms in the UK? An all-out ban, very far off. I've just noticed we got like over 100 people watching and 45 likes. Let's get it up. Hit the like button. If you're watching, like, why are you watching something you don't? Oh no, it's Hampshire watches all the live streams and they really don't like them. But if you're watching, why aren't you liking? Like, or just switch off. Like, if you're not enjoying it, don't waste your time. There's probably other weekly live streaming English YouTubers for the gun community. I'll wait. So yeah, hit the like button. Make me happy. How far do you think we are from an all-out ban? A very long way. We touched on this, I think it was last week, maybe even the week before. An all-out ban would require everything to go, and the sort of the linchpin or the foundation really is going to be where the money and the power is within the shooting community, and that's the game shooters. That's the country genteel. They are, they're the politicians, the ones that are friends with politicians, the mega rich, the mega powerful, the mega influential. They all end up, they all go game shooting, which you need shotguns to be able to do, over and under, side by side. I could see never being banned in the UK. And it's a shame, because naturally they would be the last thing that they would ever look at banning, but it's going to take them, like the government, Home Office, the police, NABIS, going after side-by-sides and over and unders for the rich and powerful within our community to really start countering that, to really start fighting against it. And it's a real crying shame, because if they started doing it now, if you took like the 10%, the top 10% of like rich game estate owners, and they all chipped in, you could end up with a serious fighting fund. Basque likes to say about its 7-figure fighting fund. Is it 7 or 6 figure? Anyway, I think it's £1 million. Yeah, there are people within the game industry that could donate £1 million to lobbying, to sort of advocacy for activism in a way, for real change. They could donate £1 million a year and not even notice it. But they're not going to do that until they start coming after the guns that they're worried about. And that's over and under side-by-side shotguns and bolt-action rifles for stalking and hunting. When they start getting attacked, that's when you're going to see the money come into lobbying. That's when you're going to see the power and the influence behind the scenes really being thrown about. But your mega rich, mega powerful, estate owner isn't going to give two shits about them coming after long barrel pistols. They're not going to care about Section 1 shotguns. They're not going to care about 2.2 semi-automatics. Maybe semi-automatics, for gamekeepers, but it's not going to spoil their day. It's not going to spoil their game shoot. So they're not going to start putting in that money. So yeah, I don't ever see it really getting a total ban, because that will all kick in if that does ever happen. Maybe the next thing, what are the guns that they're going to go after next? Probably Section 1 shotguns, long barrel pistols, and semi-auto 2.2s. I could see a real good attempt at those within the next 5 years. However, the eternal optimist in me could see it flipping. I could see within the next 5 to 10 years things changing for the better. You know, the way things are going politically, the way things are going around the world and have been, and the way that the policing, let's be honest, the lack of policing or the overstretch of resource for police, the public are growing ever further aware of how vulnerable you are. You know, everyone just seems to think that you dial 999 and there is going to be someone stood there within 30 seconds. And from my own experiences, that is very much not the case. You are, you know, I ended up, well before I got into shooting, I'd always been into air rifles, but before I properly got into shooting, I think I've said this before on the channel, driving around with a friend quite late, just, you know, as you do, I think we were like, you know, 17, 18, just going for a bit of a cruise around our local town, not like that. And definitely not like that. And we ended up driving through this like past this country pub, and I saw somebody handing over an AR-15 over the bar. Now the pub was shut. There were just, I could sort of make out these two silhouettes, and there was some like backlighting to it. And funnily enough, I just started getting into shooting. I think I just bought my first air pistol. And we'd been talking about guns all evening. And I'm like, I'm either going mad or I've got guns on the brain. Well, I've definitely got that. Or I've just seen somebody hand over an AR-15 over the counter of the pub. And this was like at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's like, this doesn't feel right. So when in doubt, you know, I phoned the police. Like, I'm not going to go and knock on the door and go, you got an AR-15, you know, tucked behind there. And I phoned the police, because it's like, if this is a genuine, you know, mistake, if it's a you know, if all legitimate, the police are going to come and knock on the door, they're going to see what it is, and then bugger off. I think it took 15-20 minutes for the standard police to arrive. I think they were traffic cops, and then a further 10 to 15 minutes after that for armed response. And armed response had I think they were up, this was in Fareham on the south coast, then they were up in like Farnham. Like, they hightailed it down to us as quickly as they could. But the guy could have been out they could have been out in the street shooting at people. It would have still taken them 20 minutes to half an hour for armed response to have got there. And of course, the traffic police, they're not allowed to go anywhere near it because there's a firearm involved. As it turned out, it was an airsoft. It was a BB gun. Which they were well, it was a very realistic one, and they said, look, we would much rather you had phoned us and we made sure than someone handling an AR-15. Anyway, it was interesting on the phone to the operator for that situation, because it's like, oh, it was an AR-15. They were like, what? How do you even know that? It's like, sort of like, I'm getting into shooting. I sort of like my guns. So anyway, in that sort of situation, it takes them 20 minutes, half an hour. You know, look at, you know, more recently Plymouth. Yes, I think armed response was on the scene within, it was either 6 minutes or 12 minutes. That's a long bloody time, and I think a lot of people are clocking on to, you know, the police aren't following up crime. Like, the amount of people, there's been loads of watch thefts recently in this area, where people are having them snatched off them or tricked out of them and things like that. And the police are just like, they're just closing the case. They're like, we're never going to find them. Like, we don't have the resource to go, so like, it's gone. Like, that's all we can say. You know, cars and bikes being stolen, and they instantly close the case because they don't have the resource to go and investigate. But yeah, if you say some hurty words, you get helicopters, SWATs, door kicked in. Snitches get stitches. Look, I was very naive. Although, to be honest, like, I would never condone illegal firearms. And it was more like, I'm curious to find out what it is. Like, and it turned out it was a BB gun. Core gaming. As a young chap who wants to get into this sport of shooting, can you see lighter gun laws in the future, such as allowing 5.56 semi-auto, or allowing pistols within the long without the long barrel. Well, yeah, this is off the back of what I'm saying. Like, the optimist in me, like, why, if we don't have hope, right? If, like, what's the point? If we're just like gonna just resign ourselves to everything going eventually, well, then what's the point? You might as well just go and hand. If you're one of these people, they're going to take them all in the way. They're going to take them in eventually at the end of the day. So what's the point? Just go and hand your fucking guns in now, right? If we need, it's all a numbers game. I say it all the time. We need more people in this sport. We need a larger voting voice, a larger taxpayer voice, to be able to influence the government and parliament. There's 750,000 license holders, less than 1% of the population. They don't care enough. They don't worry about pissing less than 1% of the population off. If we can get it to 10, 15, 20% of the population that have certificates, then they have to worry. And I've said it recently as well about the US. That's why guns are such a political topic out there, because half the country or a third of the country owns them. So it's a very quick and easy way to lose an election, by pissing off a big chunk of the of the country. So it even for the Democrats, they've got to tread lightly. They don't always do that, but they have to maybe entertain the Second Amendment more than they would like to be able to get elected in the first place. What they then go and do afterwards, well, we're seeing that and have seen that for a number of years. But we just don't have, as a community, firearms owners do not have the political clout to be taken seriously. I can see, numbers seem to only go up. The interest in shooting seems to go up. I think a lot of people are switched on into shooting for other reasons, and people are taking a bigger interest in wanting to own a firearm, in wanting to be able to go out and hunt or get outdoors more. So yeah, I can see it happening. I can see, just statistically, and I know you should never bring in logic to a discussion about guns, but just statistically, you cannot show in any which way that banning handguns or further restricting handguns to Section 5 within England, Scotland and Wales has had any positive effect on crime. It cost, I think in today's, if you adjust it for inflation, it cost something like £500 million to ban handguns. Like, what an utter waste of money with no effect. I could almost, it would be very hard to defend if gun crime fell by like 80% because they banned handguns. Then you'd be going, they're sort of onto something, right? But there's no correlation to it. It's had no positive effect. It was a huge waste of money. It killed an entire industry, and it effectively makes a criminal out of Olympic shooters. So I could see eventually garnering support and using logic and statistics and fact to say the public, if this is about public safety, there is nothing to worry about, because lawfully owned handguns in FAC holders' hands does not pose a risk to the public. Again, like Plymouth, the guy was using a Section 2 shotgun. It doesn't matter what type of gun these people have, they're going to go and do something bad with it. It's about the person, not the gun. They could have a full auto easy, and this is like a strange argument that I use all the time. Like, in some ways, I would prefer somebody to have a full auto gun if they're going to go on a spree, right? Because they're not that accurate, right? The first pull of the trigger and the Uzi hightails, the majority of those rounds are going up sky high. Somebody with an accuracy international bugged down somewhere with a Schmidt and Bender scope on there, that terrifies me. But anyway, so it's sort of a silly example, but you get, I hope you get what I'm saying. But yeah, I am ever optimistic that we would at some point get handguns back on Section 1 for sporting purposes. Might just be 2.2s to start with. I think the full bore semi-autos is going to be even harder, but little by little. Bojo, don't be a poo-poo and let me go pew-pew. That needs to be on a shirt. Look how much it costs to take the lever release away, and it reduced crime by 0. So dangerous. Took a year and a half for them to take back. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's hard. It is hard at some points to have optimism that they're going to use logic and fact to bring back handguns when they do stuff like the offensive weapons bill and they ban guns that have never been used in crime and spent God knows how many tens of millions of pounds doing it. If they ban crossbows, I'm leaving the UK. Well, the thing is, like, it was one of a potential turning point that I saw, and this is what, okay, like, it's these sorts of things that does give me some sort of optimism. So there was some sort of incident with a crossbow. I think it was either that nutter that the police were running away from. It's sort of scarily funny. If you've seen that video, they see this guy with a crossbow, and they start running up to him, and they're like, oh, he's got a crossbow. And then they sort of run back, and he like puts the crossbow down, so they start running towards him again, and then he picks it up, and they duck for cover. And it's like, yeah, if there's an argument for why more police should have tasers or more police in the UK should have guns, that's the prime example. Because what do? 2 unarmed police officers against a guy with a crossbow. And I think that sparked some sort of debate. It might have been a different incident, but there was a recent petition, and I think it got like a good few 100,000 signatures on it, and the government's response was basically the current laws are sufficient. Like, we don't have an issue with crossbows. They're not used that often in crime. They're not used that often to hurt people or in a violent way. They're fine. And they extended that, I think, to air guns as well, which is like, you know, the air gun system. You know, there was a big survey around that. So, you know, the government have come out and said, no, the laws on crossbows and air guns is sufficient. And look at Scotland. Like, that's done knob all, cost a shitload of money, and has had very little effect on the sort of bad use of air guns. And I think for once, the British government, the British Parliament has looked up and gone, yeah, that didn't work. We're not going to do it ourselves. Moving on to another sort of hot topic at the moment, which actually got a lot of people quite angry, really, is Gun Trader. So some of you may have remembered. So for those of you that don't know what Gun Trader is, it's like it's an online marketplace for guns. Both gun dealers and private individuals can list their guns for sale. You can scroll through it, get in contact with them directly, and buy them. You can't buy guns online within the UK, but you can advertise them and then do the transaction in person. Unfortunately, all of the data, so all of the user data, so things like name, address, I think date of birth, email, phone numbers, and GPS coordinates of where your address is, was released. And I think it was like 115,000 people, obviously the majority of which would have been firearms owners, would have been firearm or shotgun certificate holders, and it was a massive security concern to a lot of people. A lot of people very worried that, you know, their data is now out there, their information is out there, and most criminals are going to know that there are guns at that address. Now, one of the things that I think has pissed a lot of people off first is, I think, the lack of obvious remorse from Gun Trader, the lack of apologies, and trying to brush it over, bearing in mind that it took them, I think it was 2 or 3 days to come out with an official statement. You know, I had already, it took me 5 minutes to be able to verify that the data was real, and they sort of hid behind, well, we didn't know if it was real, and we didn't want to go out there and say, no, you were hoping that it would get swept under the rug. Meanwhile, people have their data out there, and they're unaware of the potential risks now. You have an obligation to go out there and tell people that they are a potential target. Well, there were various talks about compensation, so people suing Gun Trader for damages, and there is the damages of having your data out there, but the justification, certainly where firearms are involved, is having to go and beef up your security. If you know that criminals, and whilst there was no specific link within the data that was lost, there was actually a way to sort of back navigate with the data and see. So it's like if that person had active ads, you could search through the list, you could go through Gun Trader, find a name on an ad, or find a telephone number on an ad, and then go back into the spreadsheet and search for it and find their address. And so you could effectively build up a shopping list of guns. You couldn't do that directly, but you were able to do it. So people that did have adverts out, they're going to be concerned for their safety. They're probably going to want more CCTV. They're going to probably want to beef up their locks, maybe even go as far to start putting like hard security in place, like bars or shutters, or, you know, extra gates or fencing around the property. That has a cost, unfortunately, and I think a lot of people were coming at it from that angle, that Gun Trader should in some way contribute to the costs of your additional security to make you feel safe. So obviously with 115,000 people with their data leaked, that's going to be a lot of money. So it's sort of come as no surprise that Gun Trader UK Limited, I think it's, yeah, Gun Trader UK Limited was the original company. They have now gone into liquidation. So basically, to avoid paying basically any sort of compensation, they've liquidated. However, you know, it's not like the company, the website is going. They've just transferred it all to a new company, Gun Trader Media Limited, and you know, it is sort of like a shitty thing to do, but I can't blame them for doing it. They're doing what they need to save their livelihood, to save their company, to save the website. So, you know, it is like sort of par for the course. Like, this is what you should do if you want to continue doing the business. Like, I'm sure they don't have, like, let's say that, you know, they were going to pay everybody £1,000. They were going to pay well, let's even just say half the users, or just say 50,000, right? Say there were 50,000 users that they were going to give, say, £1,000 to each of them for beefing up their security. That's £50 million, right? I don't suspect that Gun Trader has a spare 50 million to go and to go and pay that compensation. So they've done, I think, the pretty obvious thing, and they've shut it down. However, the interesting thing out of this is, well, they did say, maybe it wasn't this one, it was another one. So interestingly, like, I think this is taking the temperature of the room here. They turned off comments because I don't think people were very happy. Let's see. So out of 41 people, how many people? Yeah, the majority are unhappy, right? Even some laugh faces, right? So people were pissed at this. Basically them dodging. Again, I can't blame them for doing it. They're trying to save their company, but combine this with the lack of, I think, visible remorse, and, you know, like, we weren't sure, and it wasn't our fault. But there was another post, maybe this has been changed or edited, but I did see a some sort of comment or some sort of post where they've done it here as well. So what people were doing, as I saw this the other week, what people were doing is instead of commenting on this post, they jumped onto this post because they really weren't happy, and they've stopped commenting there. They've stopped commenting there. They've stopped commenting there. Yeah, I think people were really, really unhappy because they've like turned. Yeah. So yeah, they've like shut down commenting, but unfortunately, I managed to get a few screenshots. So this was one. It's getting into, you know, small people wanting compensation, culture, and, you know, people basically saying like, get fucked, like they lost our data, like what are you gonna do? But there was another one. Oh yeah, you know, seriously blaming people seeking compensation, you're unbelievable. Compensation, your corporate failings led to your customers having their personal details leaked to potentially dangerous entities. Take some responsibility. And I think that's what it is. It's like, it's the lack of obvious scene responsibility being taken. This was one of the original ones. So what I also saw in another comment or another post was that they are completely redoing their website. Now, yes, why would you spend all of that money redoing the website if the website didn't need to be redone? And what a lot of experts and what a lot of people have said to me that are in the know on this is that it's fairly obvious that their security was not up to scratch. It was a very outdated security that they had, and it was actually quite an old and basic method of breaking the website and getting into it that most websites, all websites today should be immune to, because they're running sort of modern security and the websites are up to scratch. So this is where I think it gives more weight to people being upset and maybe wanting a bit more from GunTrader, because from what other people have said, they have failed to maintain the website to a standard and the security to a standard to prevent what is quite an old basic attack. And that's where the liability lies. You know, at the end of the day, you can't stop somebody trying to hack into your website, and you can't, like, if the best hackers in the world, like, you know, Anonymous, right, if they have all the time and money and computing power in the world, they're going to get into it. They're going to be able to get into most websites. But you need to take, it's like being a gun owner, right? You need to take all reasonable precautions. And the more I've heard about this and the more that is said about this, it just doesn't sound like they really did all they could have. And it was through this that they were able to get in so easily, and therefore the data was then leaked. If they had modern security, it probably would have prevented the attack and probably would have prevented the leak. Have you got your ticket yet, Callum? Unfortunately not. As I said, there's stuff going on in the background that I at some point probably will disclose, but it's the long and the short of it is it's a waiting game. They do like to try and find these weird and wonderful reasons for why I'm so obviously unsuitable to be able to own firearms, but you know, I continue to work full time in the gun industry and have a gun pretty much in my hand every single day. And during competition season, I'm like shooting every other weekend. Like, if I was a danger with a gun, you would know about it now. You would know about it already. You know, this is like, you know, I can be a servant of an RFD, but I can't have an FAC. Like, how the fuck does that one work? Anyway, as soon as there's any update with the tickets, you will all know. I should get that put on a t-shirt. Well, I put it on the car. On the note of car, it's not sealed and done yet, but got a very, very shooter-esque vehicle on its way very, very soon for my daily. I've decided that driving the GT4 through another winter is not, my heart just wouldn't stand up to it. I had too many encounters with gritter lorries last year, and I do not want to go through that. And I've always berated those people that, you know, they go and get like a dream car and then they only drive it 2 months of the year. And whilst I feel that, you know, I'm like babying this and I'm gonna chuck it in the garage and not drive it through winter, trust me, if it's a nice clear weekend, you know, with no gritters out, or it's not raining, I'll still be out there in winter. But I need something a bit more practical for day to day, and getting up certain ranges the past year, mainly Llanbradach, although they are improving the road there, I decided that I need something a bit more rugged and off-road. So because it is shooting related in a way, that will probably appear on the channel at some point. Alberto, my hope for gun licensing is getting the Euro Millions and opening a business in Scotland with a lot of land and some excuse to use real guns and provide jobs. Nice. To be fair, if I was to win the Euro Millions, you know, 50, 100, 150 million, oh, there'd be so many people that would be pissed off very, very quickly. I'd probably buy Bisley, just do that. Or even if, like, I don't know if you could actually buy it, but I'd have a lot of fun. Like, I'd be going around like buying bits up. I would wind the NRA up something fucking rotten, and I would also become a massive pain in the backside for the gun control network, because I'd put a serious amount of money into lobbying and campaigning and growing shooting sports in the UK. I mean, the thing is with you know, like something like 150 million, you can put 10-20 million aside for yourself, and it's like literally, yes, I think I could spend that sort of money very quickly, but you could do a lot with it. You could go and spend 100 million on gun lobbying in the UK and still have 50 million left over. So like, you're still living comfortably for the rest of your life. Get yourself an XC70. No, it's not a Volvo. Yes, I did like the look of the Volvos and all that. Probably a bit out my budget for the daily. Jimny for Callum, then, it was on the list. They're just not big enough. You know, they're like sitting in a fucking baked bean can. Although they go everywhere. You cannot fault a Jimny for off-roading. People sort of laugh at them like they're some sort of gimmick car. They are proper off-roaders. They will go up anything and go anywhere. Toyota Hilux with a gun turret, a million Taliban, can't be wrong. I was looking at the Hilux, because they're just, you know, they go on forever, don't they? I was looking at an L200 or even like an older Ford Ranger. I can't believe you need a Land Rover Defender. No, too agricultural. I want something comfy for the daily office commute, but something that I can chuck up the side of a range. Ranger Raptor. Like, yes, that would be the dream. Well, to be fair, I think my dream 4x4, apart from like a bowler or something, would be a Range Rover SVR. But I'm not in the position... I'm not in the point in my life where I could go and justify spending £120,000 on a Range Rover. I think they're even more. I think they might even be like 150. They're like, what are they? It's like 2 minutes later and I'm filling out a finance agreement for an SVR. How much is an SVR? Acceptable cookies. Let's. You can come along with the ride with me. Thrilling performance. Yeah, I want to know how much they are. Yeah, whatever. SVR. Explore this vehicle. It's just going to be more marketing gumph, isn't it? View vehicle availability. Oh yeah, because we've got a massive shortage. Oh, there we go. Well, that's the Range Rover Sport. Not interested in that. Dynamic, Sport. What? Come on, Land Rover. Like, if you were really here trying to spend what, £100,000, they're making it bloody difficult, aren't they? Sport. Here we go. No. Oh, for fuck's sake. This is a shooting channel, by the way, but we do like to... I'm not going through all of this. Oh, here we go. Supercharged. I think that's it. I think that's the SVR engine. But yeah, basically before any options, £102,000. I wouldn't have a problem spending £102,000 on a car, but not a 4x4. Like a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, an Aston Martin, a Porsche. Yes, I get that. But a 4x4, and funnily enough, I was talking to Connors about this. The SVR, the SVR is a goal because it's the sort of point in your life, I think, that it's if you can afford to go and spend that sort of money on a car, you're doing pretty well. And not that sort of money on a car, that sort of money on a 4x4. But yeah, anyway, back to shooting. Rich Weston, thank you very much. Evening all, just joined. Has Otto come trumps on the Antreg? Range Rover is pants, reserve Grenadier. Yeah, the Grenadier, again, the Grenadier's just it's all about being the old Defender, isn't it? And just a bit too agricultural. Originally I was looking at a Skoda Octavia VRS, because leather seats, comfy, mod cons and all that, just not that good at getting up sides of mountains. So I've gone for what I've gone for, because it's sort of the Skoda Octavia, the Audi A4, just on 4-wheel drive. But thank you very much, Rich. Appreciate the support as always. Range Rover's pants. They're not. They break down all the time. Has Otto come trumps on the Antreg? No, he's still waiting to be able to get them in. I believe what he was waiting for was enough people with deposits down, and enough people that are saying yes, I'm gonna get one, I'm gonna take one off you, so that he could place the minimum order required. He hit that milestone and was gonna place the order. And now the factory are no, we're now doing a run of these guns. We're not interested in doing a small batch for you at the moment. So it was what I was saying earlier about it. These are small batches of guns for the UK market, trying to convince a manufacturer to down tools on something they're making thousands of or tens of thousands of, to make 10, 50, 100. It's not very appealing for them. So he's just having to wait until they're a little less busy, until they've got a bit more time, and that they can do the run of the Antreg Zenith for him. There are still 2 or 3 in the country, but they're obviously development models. It's one of the ones that I shot and did the video with. So yeah, I really want him to get those out. There's a lot of people that really want those guns out. But of course we have the Shield now, as it was always going to be a race between the two. They both sort of announced them, or sort of started teasing about them at around the same time. So Shield have won on that sense. In terms of which one's going to be better, that's going to be impossible to say at this point. I have a lot of time for Otto, and the Shield have never, as far as I'm aware, they've never made a gun, or they've never sort of designed or had one made to their specification. So Otto builds guns with his bare hands, not quite literally, but he's building guns day in, day out. For me, that gives a little bit more, because he's going to know he's going to know the insides of those guns like the back of his hand. But of course, Shield are working with KMR, who are going to know these guns like the back of their hand. So it's going to be interesting. I know that one thing that may put people on or put people off about Otto's is it's got that split slide, and I have to say that racking the slide wasn't necessarily more difficult, but it was different to what you would normally do because of the way it was split. So, you know, the Shield might be closer in that sense to the 9mm, which may appeal to some people, but until I end up with both of them side by side, or at least get to go on a range and shoot the KMR or the Shield KMR or whatever they're calling it, won't be able to say. But it'll be interesting. I mean, 2 CZs on the market, it's got to be better than one, right? You would think. Mercedes G-Class, yes, like it is. Unfortunately, they've been very footballed. You know, like they've been very footballer cars, but they are absolutely baller. You get ones with like it's the AMG. It's the 6.2 supercharged or bi-turbo. You know, they do go and they sound grumbly. I'm surprised no one said a Ram, like a Dodge Ram. What is it? It's like the 5.4 litre Hemi or something like that. They sound insane. Like you think it's some like monster truck coming. Well, they are like the size of a monster truck when you compare them to, you know, like a Nissan Micra here in the UK. Thanks for stream and news on KMR. More than welcome. Thanks for joining. Don't forget, guys, hit the like button, give it a share, get involved, give it a comment. It all helps beat the YouTube algorithm and get people people learning about shooting here in the UK, which is what we're all about. Skoda Yeti 4x4 is also pretty good. Yeah, I just wanted something that looked a bit better, if I'm going to be completely honest. Would you shoot your 338 over the bonnet of your girly car? Yes. I wouldn't have a problem with it. What I have thought about doing is shooting a gun through the car, through the windows. Wealthy one, hi Callum, you look well. Thank you. I do try. Slightly shaven for once. It's just the lighting. Would you need the optional extra step ladder to get into the truck? Go fuck yourself, Daniel. That's why I can't get a big boy 4x4. I've got to get like a smaller one so I can climb up. But the one I'm getting does have side steps, so it makes it all a bit easier. But no, you little bastard, I can get up this car absolutely fine with a bit of a run up, like wee. That's what it's like, actual reconstruction there. So in other news, I don't think the irony. No, I think the irony is very much lost with Bask on this one. So Bask put out a post that sort of, you know, tweaked my ears, pricked my ears up a little bit. So they put out a post on Facebook saying about, we will challenge police forces. So there was this article where I think it was the Express. Well, yeah, it was the Express because it says right there, where they were saying about people having their shotgun certificates revoked sort of needlessly by the police without justification. Now, of course, this is all off the back of Plymouth. So, you know, police forces are incredibly heightened at the moment, and I think it did cause a lot of licensing departments across the country to go, right, we need to go through all of the recent applicants or all of our current SGC or FAC holders, and, you know, maybe ones that we were like 50-50 with and we gave them the benefit of the doubt, we probably need to take them away, because that's exactly what happened to, well, fuck no, it didn't, that's not even what came close with Plymouth. Like, there was no 50-50 about it. The fact that he had a license is absolutely diabolical. You know, the handling of that whole situation is just farcical. But anyway, the police are using it as obviously justification to revoke certificates, and Bask have said Whilst public safety is paramount, Basque will challenge any police force that revokes a certificate without good reason, and will take that challenge to all the way to court if necessary. Certificate holders across the country must not be unduly penalised because a force may have failed to follow procedures put in place to ensure guns are only in the hands of responsible people. So the irony here is that we used to have a system with Basque that gave all Basque members protection from this. So whilst Basque is saying we will challenge any police force, who decides that? What is the criteria? Do they have the money? You know, let's say they have 10,000 members that get their certificates revoked, and they're going to have to go and spend, what, £5,000 in legal fees? You know, are they going to cough up that $500,000? Is that $500,000? 10,000? No, it's a lot more than that. It's getting late. 10,000 members times £5,000. No, that's 50 million. So even, you know, even if it was 1,000 members that they needed to go and protect, that's £5 million, right? That's 5 times their huge, enormous fighting fund, right? And this was my concern from day one when they removed the legal expenses insurance. It sends out a flare to the police to say all Basque members are no longer covered by legal expenses insurance, which means a lot of the members would not have the money to be able to have an appeal, to launch an appeal if they decide to revoke. And Basque do not have the money, they do not have the resource, that if the numbers of people that are having their certificates taken away without justification, if that number starts getting into the hundreds, starts getting into the thousands, Basque is not going to be able to take every single one of those to court. So it blows my mind that right at the time where we probably needed legal expenses insurance at the most, because the police are very twitchy at the moment and they are taking away certificates for any which reason because they just don't want a repeat of Plymouth, and that's their justification. You know, we don't have legal expenses insurance with Basque. There are alternatives, a gun plan. They have revocation insurance, basically legal expensive insurance. The CPSA, they do, and their in-house counsel is Laura Sainsbury, who's sort of one of the foremost legal experts. She's one of the foremost firearm solicitors in the country. So that's who you get access to if the worst happens. There's, I think is it the 3 C's? They do. You know, I did a video on all the insurances available. There are alternatives, but it's just like okay, fair play, Basque. You're firing a warning shot to the police. Like, look, don't come after our members because we will protect them. Yeah, that's what you should be doing, but your ability to protect them is greatly hindered because you're the ones now having to cough up the legal fees, and the police know that. So the police will either back down or they will gear up, and they'll just go, you know, you're not going to be able to help 200-300 of your members if we take them away, and you're certainly not going to be able to help 1,000 of them. So yeah, it's unfortunate. It's worrying. It's good to see that Basque aren't afraid to necessarily go up and fight, but I think dropping the legal expenses insurance and putting it into this fighting fund, which we all know is for game shooting, we all know is for the general licenses, and to, you know, come up with a whole new menu book for game meat to sell that doesn't protect the members. That doesn't help the members. Like, it does in a way help the industry, but it doesn't help the individuals that no longer have the protection. It would be interesting to see if I became a Basque member again and I needed a hand trying to get my certificates, whether they would I don't know, cough up some money to help get into court and fight it off. What are you drinking tonight? A nice heavy dose of Robinson's blackcurrant. I was at the pub last night with my dad. So the thought of having a beer or any alcoholic beverage does make me throw up a little bit in my mouth at the moment. So so yes, that just on the I'm on the soft stuff this evening. Speaking about this, about CZ, just bought a 75B. Are there any grips you would recommend? Original, Ali, G10 or wood? To be honest, I'm really not the best person to speak to about grips and handgun accessories and all that, because obviously in the UK we don't do a huge amount of pistol shooting. Whilst I try to do as much abroad as possible, I shoot polymer frame guns. Like, I either shoot a Glock or I shoot a PPQ. So you don't need, that there's no option there for the grips. But I would get into the groups on Facebook and ask around there, get into the forums and ask recommendations. I mean, that's the thing, for something like a 75B, there is going to be a plethora of options for you. I would say you're probably going to have to go out there and buy a few different ones and you try out yourself, because as well with something like a handgun and something like grips, it's very personal. It has to be very suited to the shooter and what you like and the way that you shoot and the way that you grip. And something that I might recommend and that I really like for a handgun or for any gun doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna think it's good. But yeah, unfortunately I can't be more help than that. But yeah, get out into the shops, try them, get your hands on them, get down the range, see if there's anybody else with the same gun and try their gun, and that's really the best thing you can do. I reckon you should buy a white Suzuki. What, a move to Brighton by any chance? Like, I genuinely wanted a white car for the daily. The last 3 cars that I've owned have all been white on black. No, black on white. But they've all been white with black accent, with black trim. In my mind, not all cars suit it, but like these cars, I think just look. That was the look, and a little bit of red here and there as well, mainly on the calipers, and seat belts. I think actually they've all been white cars with black trim, with red calipers and red seatbelts. At least I'm consistent, right? I can't say I'm inconsistent there. I just love that look when they're clean. A white car, you will be forever cleaning it. It is the bane of my existence, trying to keep the GT4 clean. But yeah, I was looking for a white car for my daily. Wasn't able to find one. I've gone silver instead. You got anything planned for bonfire night? You got any pyro stashed or what? No. To be honest, I'm not. I might go to I would rather go to like a public event than do it. Like, fireworks are very Marmite, right? And that, they're not particularly cheap, and I wouldn't want to piss off my neck. I don't think I would get enjoyment out of lighting them and seeing them bang, but at the same time, I would just be worried that I'm pissing off all my neighbours. And dogs. I've always had dogs in my house. We don't have a pet at the moment because we've just moved in. We will probably eventually get a dog ourselves, and I've seen what fireworks do to dogs, and it's just like, yeah, I get it. I wouldn't stop people from doing it. I just don't think I would do it myself. I would just go to a public event, go to a public sort of bonfire night. Tony Blair has just passed away. No, it's not Tony Blair. It's Lionel Blair. Veteran entertainer, TV presenter and dancer Lionel Blair has died, 92. Blair, who is recent, not different Blair. But I appreciate your efforts. Did you see Ely launched a 9mm comp ammo stateside today? No, but I knew it was coming, if I'm going to be honest. I actually spoke, I think this was when he was still CEO of Ely Ammunition, and it was when we were going out to the European Handgun Championships. I ended up speaking to Mark Derbyshire, who said that, you know, he had always envisioned Ely not moving away from 2.2, but adding to the 2.2 line. You know, he was like, we've mastered it. Like, we are the people to go for 2.2 target ammunition, and we have a lot of knowledge and skill and experience in making that ammunition that we think we can go into other calibers and other rounds. You know, that's why they went into the semi-auto. And let's be completely honest, the first 6 months of the semi-auto ammunition from Ely was very hit and miss, and there were I think quite a few issues. Even the sponsored shooters, right? Even the sponsored shooters would admit that, and I even watched a number of their sponsored shooters putting CCI mini mag or CCI standard in Ely boxes to make it look like that they were using Ely. They fixed all of that. Like, I'm still very much set on CCI, if I'm going to be honest. It's just, I've used it forever. It's always been consistent for me. And I have no reason to switch. I don't see any benefit at the moment switching. But yeah, they've come leaps and bounds with their semi-auto stuff. Obviously, they're second to none on their target ammunition stuff. And I know Mark and now I don't know who the CEO is now, actually, but I know that Justin Cooper, who's I think he's one of the main sales guys there. You know, Mark Derbyshire and Justin, they're big practical shooters. You know, Justin goes around all of Europe shooting handgun. I think, like, literally the weekend just gone, he came 5th in a major match. So Ely is, you know, the people with inside Ely are getting bigger into practical, or there's more people getting more practical people in Ely. So, you know, the number one top spot for the 2.2 target, they've got that in the bag, and there's people there which I think is pulling the company to explore other rounds. But I ended up speaking to Mark, and he was saying that they wanted to get into 4-bore rounds. I think he said as well that they were looking at like 38 Super. It was a very specific competition round. But 9mm, of course, if you're going to get into full bore pistol rounds, like 9mm, you know, it's like that's what you should be going and cutting your teeth in. It's the biggest market. It's the biggest round used for practical shooting. So yeah, I hadn't actually seen that, but yeah, thanks for letting me know, Dan. But yeah, I knew it was going to be on the cards at some point. To date, Devon and Cornwall have only revoked 8 SGCs so far. When you say to date, do you mean like forever? Like, you know, since time began, they've only ever revoked 8 SGCs? Because that would be extraordinary. Have you ever had the opportunity to shoot a Browning high power? No, I have not. Heard a lot about them. A lot of people that had them in the UK or within England, Scotland and Wales when we were allowed them. But no, I've not had the privilege. A white car only belongs in hot countries. The UK can be hot occasionally. Oi, g'day, bruv, from Utah, USA. Rocky Mountain Bear. Thank you for joining in, and good day to you as well. Although I will have to say that good day, bruv, is that like a chavvy Essex Australian immigrant, or is that like a Utah-ism? But just out of interest, whereabouts are you in Utah? I've had the extraordinary privilege to visit Utah a number of times, and I have to say I think it's my favorite state so far. Like, absolutely love Utah. Like, genuinely, like, being up to Salt Lake and surrounding areas, to Lilly County, and been down to St. George, down in southern Utah. But yeah, the landscape there, the friendliness. I mean, Americans are just friendly anyway, but Utah seems to take it to another level. And just the guns, like Utah love their guns. It's like I seriously would consider, if I was to move to the States, Utah would be a serious option for me. But yeah, appreciate you stopping by. Don't forget, everyone, hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already. We do this every single week, so a little bit of I think this stream's been a lot more balanced with the chat. I have to say, I'm still not bloody happy with my setup. This might look very standard, like what it's always been, but I now have a whole dedicated room to this, and it's still not perfect. Like the way the laptops are set up, you know, I have to keep turning to look at the messages. I really want to mix it up. What I want to do is like a proper stream setup where just like everything's at the back of the desk, but then there's not really much to look at. It's just a blank wall. So either ready to change that, or I don't know. But anyway, I'm always looking to improve. And I don't know if you can see it, but like most of that LED lighting behind me is hanging on by a thread, and it was very scraggly. I still haven't got that all in place. We're still like, who knew like having your own place and moving into a house took so much time. Ely action has been awesome. 1,500 rounds, not one problem. However, my latest batch, when you say has been awesome, like how long have you been using it? Because it was very early on. It was very early on that I saw the issues when they first come out with the semi-auto stuff. But more recently, I think it's been fine. You're ignoring shooting comments to talk about cars. Is this a shooting or a car channel? Why not both? It's whatever I want it to be. This is the wonderful thing. I have full control. We can start talking about watches if you really want. Like, don't tempt me. But I apologize. I do try to. I'm going through them all. I can't help that I like cars. Can't beat Bryce, Zion and Archers. Yeah, Zion National Park is very close to where we were staying for the American shooting trips. Didn't have a chance. I went into a little bit of it, but some of the people took a whole day to go into it, and it was just like absolutely just mind-blowing, the landscape there. That's awesome. I live in Alpine, southeast of Salt Lake City. Is that like the ski resort? What is it? What is the ski? Salt Lake City, Alta. I think it's Alta that I went to. Alta. Oh, go away, ad block. Is it Alta? Yes. Yeah, I managed to, on a work trip, somehow managed to blag going on a skiing trip. So I don't know if that's anywhere near you guys. But yeah, fantastic place. Callum Studio wasn't built in a day. No, it really wasn't. Really wasn't. What I really want, part of the my goal, and part of the reason that part of the reason that there've been a lack of like dedicated videos recently is the whole moving and just time and all that. But what I want is a permanent setup. I want to be able to come and sit down, just turn everything on and go. Not have to reposition lights, not set up the camera, not get the microphone out and jiggle that. I just want it sat there. Which, previously when I didn't have my own place, the room had to be multi-purpose and things had to get tucked away, and and it was like my work office as well as the studio, and this will be similar, but you know, I'll be able to go and sit out in the conservatory and work without coming and interfering with all of the setup. So yeah, it's not there yet. It's this room's still very much a dumping ground. There are a lot of boxes of clothes that I'm looking at right now. But yeah, I will get it set up, and I want it to be awesome. I want it to look good, and I want it to be practical, and I want to, you know, I've got this whole list. One video that I'm actually really excited to make, and it's, you know, a lot of what I do on the channel is through passion and my own interest. Like, that's how it started. When I learned something about firearms law, I made a video on it and basically regurgitated what I had just learned. But and I'm going to go through and actually remake a lot of the law videos. Some of it's out of date, some of it just makes me cringe because it was a very long time ago. But a video that I'm like really enjoying researching on is the 10 most expensive guns ever sold through auction. So not the most expensive guns you can go and buy today, the most expensive guns that have ever been auctioned or sold. I think the most expensive on the list is priceless, because of the historic significance, and they suspect it would be it would blow all the records out of the water if they ever came up for, or this particular gun ever came up for auction. I'll give you a hint. It's a Derringer. Let's see if anybody can get which gun it is just from that. I would be quite impressed. But the most expensive ones are about 2 million. That's the most expensive gun ever sold. And I think it was actually a pair of guns as well. So it was just really interesting going and finding, like, going through auction records and the history, and obviously they're very important. It's not, you know, it's not that they're expensive because of necessarily the craftsmanship on it. They're expensive because who used them, or when they were like what they were used for in history, and things like that. So yeah, I found it really interesting. So I've got all the research done for that. I've got the list. I just need to sit down and film it. And I was hoping to get that out this week, but it will be coming out soon. I've still got 2 match videos coming out from Scotland and the Coats of Iron. They'll be coming out soon. And for all you practical fans and Benelli fans, Connor's picked up a brand new Nova Speed yesterday or Tuesday, Monday. Anyway, earlier in the week, he picked up a brand new Nova Speed. So we're going to be doing some videos on that. I think I'm going to do a sort of a bench top overview of what the Speed is, what the changes are, and all that. And I think Connors is going to do the full review, because I don't think I would do it justice. He's going to do a full, proper, deep dive, nut and bolt review of the thing on this channel. So, you know, there's literally no one better that I know to give a full review. He's shot a Supernova for years. He is like sort of Mr. Supernova, and he's going to look at potentially and I say potentially switching to the Nova Speed. It's not a done deal. That might give you some inclination that the gun isn't as out of the box as people would be made to believe. So there will be all that coming out soon as well. Let's see if anybody got it. Well, Mr. Hondas and Mr. Akhtar, yes, it is the John Wilkes Booth Derringer. That is what is estimated to, that would set all the records if it was to ever be sold at auction. It would smash past the 2 million mark that the current Top Spot holds, because it sort of is the most expensive. Well, it is apart from the second one, Bob Kennedy. Like, can you think of can you think of any more famous guns, or guns that would be more famous than the gun that killed Lincoln or the gun that killed Kennedy? You know, that's just, in terms of sort of you know, modernish history, or you know, within our history, like absolutely insane how well known those shootings are, how significant they were at both of those different periods. So yeah, they were set. Funnily enough, the rifle that shot Kennedy, that's never come up for auction. I would suspect that would be very high up. Shed out the back, new studio. I will be building it. I will be building a studio at some point, literally in the garden. Mainly because at some point this will probably become a kids' room. Yes, the thought of having little Callums running around, I know is probably terrifying, but it will probably happen at some point, unless I'm shooting blanks, which, you know, never know. Hitler's custom PPK. I don't think it is actually a PPK. I haven't actually got the Hitler's golden custom gun is on the list of the top 10. It's quite low on the top 10, which surprised me. My first batch of 1,000 auctions bought from Marlboro guns were fault free. Oh, action. So Ely. Mini mag threw up the occasional failure. My latest batch from Livens have had the occasional primer failure. Gutted. I mean, the thing is, like, 2.2 ammunition is not that reliable overall. Garden guns, Nova Speed. It is a sexy gun, and it does feel really nice. My initial impressions of the Nova Speed is that it's an M2 pump, right? Because the thing is, you pick up, I haven't had a lot of experience with the Nova, but obviously the Nova and the Supernova are very similar anyway. But the Supernova, it feels like an agricultural gun. It feels like somebody 6'5" who works on a farm and enjoys occasional duck hunting. You know, it feels like, it just feels bloody chunky and big and rugged. It feels like a pump action, which for me, I just could never use it. Even with the Magload short action bars, the gun's just too big for me. The Nova Speed, it feels like an M2 with a pump with a pump handle. It's much lighter, slimmer. It doesn't feel as rattly as well. It doesn't feel agricultural in that sense. It feels tighter and slicker. So yeah, it could tempt me to go to standard manual and go head to head with Connors in that division. But yeah, it's a nice gun out of the box, 100%. But already Connors has picked up a couple of things that need doing to it before he would take it into competition. But yeah, we will get into all of that. There will be videos on that, on the new Nova Speed, very, very soon. And there will also be at some point, thanks to various kind subscribers, and you know who you are, for bringing down their various M2 speeds. At some point I will be able to get hold of another one and do some reviews with them and get them out, because it's the gun within the practical world. It's the guns that everyone are talking about. Pete Juggins, what's on your wrist? What's on my wrist is a Rolex Milgauss. I've talked about it before on the channel. Bought it with my first bonus that wasn't paying off all my credit card and other debt that I'd racked up at uni. But my connection with it, I buy a watch I buy watches to signify, to mark occasions, and that was to mark graduating from university and, you know, starting my full-time work as an electronic engineer. And for those of you that don't know, the Milgauss is an engineering watch. It's got effectively a Faraday cage around the movement so that it is less sensitive to magnetism, because if a mechanical watch movement becomes magnetized, it loses time, it can damage the movement, and the original Milgauss, which are like silly money now, I can't remember what scientific project they were made for, but they relaunched the Milgauss for the scientists at CERN, because obviously at CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, a giant magnet. So any mechanical watch would most likely have broken, or certainly wouldn't have been able to keep accurate time. So Rolex released the Milgauss again with this cage around the movement, which prevents it from becoming magnetized. And funny enough, Connor's has got a tag, an automatic. It's an automatic Tag Heuer Accuracer chronograph day date, and it was losing time. And he actually downloaded an app that uses the hall sensor in your phone to check magnetism on the watch. And lo and behold, he put it over there, and the watch was magnetized. You know, my Milgauss, which I've been wearing now, I've had the watch for must be like 7 or 8 years, probably getting onto that. It's never been serviced. I put it over there, absolutely no magnetism. And bearing in mind, at Magload, we deal with a lot of magnets. It's quite often that I'll be, pressing magnets into parts, and they are big rare earth magnets. You know, they, I've put them before, I've dropped them on the computer before, and it sends the computer haywire. So it's been exposed to a lot of magnets, not a problem at all. But anyway, I told you, you don't need to tempt me that much to get talking about watches. Expensive guns. A firm up north is building a handcrafted, double-barreled 500 nitro. Estimate cost $750,000. Funny enough, and I'll just check this. Funny enough, in terms of the most expensive guns sold at auction, $750,000. Oh no, it would make the list. Again, it wouldn't be that high up the list. There are quite a few sort of million or multi-million pound guns that have been sold at auction, but this list is specifically like guns that have been sold at auction, so like historically significant ones or older ones, not ones that you can go and buy. Like, because maybe that's going to be a separate list, and I'll do a separate video on that, because you could make a gun as expensive as you wanted. You could diamond and encrust it. You could, make the action out of platinum. That probably wouldn't go very well, but you could just literally throw money at the gun. These guns are expensive because of how historically significant they are, or for how rare they are. So yeah, it was interesting doing the research. It was interesting, like learning more about certain older guns. I've said before, I'm not a history buff when it comes to firearms. Even when you talk about more popular historic firearms like the Enfield or the Mosin, and I used to own a Mosin, I was never big into like the history. I just wanted to shoot it. I like pulling triggers. But yeah, I know I need to make more of a conscious effort to like understand the history of where things have come from. Adam, how are you doing? I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. I hope you're doing well as well. I hope everyone watching is doing well as well. But only if you like. Like, if you haven't liked the live stream, then whatever, suit yourself. But but yeah, everyone that's liked it, everyone that's watching, and everyone that's subscribed, I hope you're doing fantastic. You shoot an M3K, that's agricultural. An M3K is not agricultural. Like, maybe a bog standard M3000, but the M3K is not an agricultural gun. It's a lower cost practical gun, but it's still pretty slick, right? A bog standard Supernova, like, it doesn't get more agricultural than that, trust me. Heard you now need a doctor's certificate to get a gun over there. You've needed that for a while, to be perfectly honest. But it's just they've changed the. It was like, I made a whole video on this. Basically, what ended up happening is the police would contact your GP and sort of get the nod, and then they agreed that the GPs would like sign off on every single application. And then they reneged on that and backtracked, and they're like, actually, we don't want to do that. It's like, but this is what you agreed to. So what was happening is the police were sending applications to get signed off on, and they wouldn't hear something from the GP, but they wouldn't know if they weren't hearing because the GP, there was nothing to be worried about, or because the GP was just ignoring it. So what some counties started doing is requiring for the applicant to go to their GP, have it signed off, and have it as part of the application before they would even start looking at it. And whilst that's been like quite a lot of places have done some variation of that, the guidance is changing to say that no, it absolutely has to be a part of the process, and it has to be standardized. So and I'm all for standardization, because, like, completely honest, like the disparity between forces in the UK and the way that they do things county to county is just, it makes my head hurt. But they they're doing it, so it will be a requirement going forward. No like button is visible on LS. I'm sure it's there somewhere. I heard that in the UK. Oh no, English shooting. I'm doing great, man. Thanks for asking. Good to hear. Colin, hello from Australia. With regard to handguns, can you add a stock or brace to conform to the length requirements? Yes. So we don't have the whole bullshittery that the Americans have with SBRs and rifles and handguns and pistols and all that, right? It's just all about the length. Whatever you want to put on there to get the length, definitely a dildo gun in the future. That's definitely happening. Just gonna stick a dildo on the rod. It's got, like, why has no one done that so far? Why is it me that comes up with these ideas first? Anyway, whatever you want to put on the gun to make it that length, it could be a rod, it could be a stock, it could be a brace, it could be a broom, for all I care. Hello, I'll be probably down in a bit. All right. So I'm just Holly's been out. She's just got back. I think that was the I would like to watch TV with you on the sofa look. So my time is limited, guys. You can use anything to make up that length. It doesn't matter if it becomes an SBR, whether it's a long arm. The only definition, as long as the barrel is over 12 inches and the total length is over 24, they don't care. It then becomes a Section 1. It becomes a rifle or a carbine. Then you can have it. So yeah, you can do anything. Would you need a FAC to shoot your obsolete Smith-Rubin 1989 at a gun club? Yes. So the thing about obsolete caliber is if it's one of the ones you can own without a license, because there are some that you do now require a license to own, I would double check that. Basically, it's the reason you're allowed to do that and you're allowed to own certain obsolete calibers without a certificate is because you're not going to shoot it, because you don't have the ammunition, because it's an obsolete caliber. If you then start shooting it, then it is a viable firearm. It's then not an obsolete caliber, and you would need it to be Section 1. If you rocked up to a gun club with an obsolete caliber and, you know, I haven't got a license, bang bang, like, yeah, you probably wouldn't last very long there. Hey Colin, I don't know who Colin is, but I am Callum, Callum. But are handguns legal in Australia? Oh, you're not talking to me. Okay, all right. Never mind. The amount, to be in my defence, the amount of times I've been called Colin on the stream, but you're talking to somebody else. But I can answer it for you. Yes, handguns are legal in Australia. Any news on your FAC? Nope, no news at all. And on that note, as I said, my time is up. It's now time for TV and cuddles on the sofa. So not that I wouldn't, you know, like to spend the rest of the evening with you lovely fellas, but before you all head off, hit the like button, make sure you are subscribed. But I really hope that you've enjoyed tonight's stream. Felt it's been a much better mix of general sort of chat and chit chat and the points. I know the previous streams have been a lot more just like me ranting and raving, but you guys seem to like that, so you know, I got to do it occasionally. But yeah, so you know, the next week, don't really know what's going to really happen the next week. Just everything's melding into one at the moment. But yeah, we've got the new Nova Speed in. Be trying to get some content out about that. Top 10 most expensive guns ever sold. Maybe I need to make a video on SBRs, the like like braces and stuff like that, because that is quite a common question. But yeah, no, I really hope. Sorry guys, like I can see like loads of other questions coming in. I am going to head off. Yeah. But yeah, if you want to come and chat next week, got something that you haven't had a chance to ask or say or talk about tonight, then we do this every Thursday, 10:30 UK, 7:30 PM UK time on the channel. But yeah, I hope you have a fantastic week ahead with lots of shooting and bullets fired down range. Thanks again for joining. Like and subscribe, and of course, as always, I hope to see you soon.